Hey, what's up? Joseph from JohnTheHutDweller here. I'm making this video because I just watched something on here, and I haven't talked about this a lot on this channel. I talked about it on the old channel that I used to have. I think all the videos that I had where I talked about it, I marked private. There's an issue out there that affects everybody, and it's not getting talked about, and it's been complete. It seems like total silence ever since about 98. It seems like the last time anybody really talked about it, or I really heard anything about it. That's HIV/AIDS. Now that's hearing about it in generally public places. Uh, Something happened to me that I wound up researching it. Uh, I had to, and angered me what I found out. Um, and anybody who has AIDS or knows about or has HIV, I mean, is said to have HIV, gets an HIV test and tests positive according to the tests. Uh, they come to know about this, and I don't think most people know about it, and that's pretty much everybody in the 80s and 90s that died of AIDS who was on treatment died of the treatment. There were early cases of something called GRID, and it was pneumocystis pneumonia and Kaposi sarcoma, and they had correlations between them. This uh, became what we now call AIDS. Uh, GRID was seen as a pejorative, an offensive term because it stands for uh, gay-related immunodeficiency. Well, the fact that people in the 80s saw what the medication was doing and said, I just want to live out my natural life. I'll die. I know it means that I have a shorter life, but I don't want to take it. Some of those people are still alive today. Somebody who lived for 25 years was diagnosed. When they were diagnosed, they were to the day they died, 25 years, no medication. But yet at the time they were told within a year you'll die. And then after statistics start building that only the people who were taking the medication were dying at such a fast rate. They said 3 years, and then they said 7, and then they stopped putting a timeline on it. They find out that the less medication they give people, the longer they live. So what they're doing is they're giving people chemotherapy. It was a medication called AZT, azidoxyidine, uh, that would kill off the immune system. So your treatment for a disease that to kill the immune system is to kill the immune system. Now AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. If you take chemotherapy for an unending amount of time, eventually you will get acquired immune deficiency syndrome. You will get AIDS and you don't need HIV. This has been yelled at. People scream at people about this. When it's kind of funny that HIV causes, it's not a disease. A virus does not cause a disease, but a syndrome. And the diseases that are now linked to AIDS are ever expanding. Any disease in the presence of HIV is considered AIDS in most cases. You go across you're HIV positive, and you're an AIDS patient. It means your T cell count is below 300. It might be 200. They keep shifting the definition of AIDS. Go to Canada, you don't have AIDS. You can be said to have AIDS in Rwanda come to America and you don't have AIDS. That's not a joke. They still, in some parts of the world, use what's called the Bangui criteria, where there's no testing for a virus. They check off symptoms, and then they declare you HIV positive and you to be an AIDS patient. These things can be loss of weight, fever, depression, forgetfulness. If you have, let's say you have those 4 things, you're considered an AIDS patient. Let's say you have those 4 things and you get a false positive, you're an AIDS patient. Why is it that when they test you for HIV, it's not 50-50. It's actually less than that, which means the test, it's not even 50-50 accurate. It means it gives more false positives than real ones, and it means it's impossible to distinguish who has AIDS and who doesn't. It's really silly, and CDC and other organizations have been playing with people's lives, causing them to die horrible deaths when their natural life wasn't, when they weren't dying of anything. They just had some crappy test that's no longer used anymore. Said, okay, yeah, you're HIV, and nobody's ever apologized for it either. That's the thing. Think of all the all the musicians you can think of in the 80s that died, in early 90s that died of quote-unquote AIDS. They were AZT victims. It shocks me to think, to know how terrified somebody can be to want to take those medications. It's almost like somebody put a gun to your head and said, if I don't pull this trigger, you're going to die. And then you step back and think about it and say, oh wow, the bullet would have killed me. It's the exact opposite of what they said. And they're talking about human life here, and families getting destroyed, and people wanting to commit suicide. Nope, nobody talks about it. Either you buy into HIV AIDS equals death, or you're a son of a bitch and you'll get yelled at. If you go to any support groups and you say, maybe I think I'll live, you get screamed at and yelled at. And you're called a bigot and a racist. What? This is something that angers me beyond anything. It's murder. It's not an accident anymore. Maybe in the 80s it was an accident. Looking back now. And I know the drugs aren't as harsh anymore. Well, why can't they say sorry? Why can't they look at themselves? Wait, let's take a scientific approach to this. Let's start out first. Let's see what's... No more discussion. It's education and medication. We're not learning anything here. The learning has been done. It's over. How the hell can that be science? And why should it be allowed in medicine?